I love the mysterious and mystical sides to stories and world building. George R.R. Martin incorporates a lot of this into his series A Song of Ice and Fire, from secret Dornish plots to a mysterious and dangerous world of Ashai. Game of Thrones is filled with this kind of lore. One group in particular that's always interested me is the Faceless Men. Their intentions aren't always clear, they operate in the shadows, yet they're well known in the world of Ice and Fire, and this of course is ironic, but it makes them no less interesting to learn about. If you weren't already familiar yet, the Faceless Men are an assassins guild based in Bravos, a free city of Essos. Known for being very good at getting the job done, they command exorbitant fees for their services and are mostly employed by the very wealthy. Though they are an assassins guild, they are also somewhat of a religious cult. Each member considers themselves a servant of the many-faced god, also known as the god of death. This is the same god that's worshipped by many religions of Planetos, including the Stranger of the Faith of the Seven and the weirwood face of the old gods of the forest. In order to be of service to the many-faced god, members take on the identity of no one, so they may take on the identity of anyone. This allows